Here I'm representing Baylor College Medicine, graduate graduate. Whoops, I may accept this. There we go. The Graduate School of Biomedical Sciences, and go there. Good. So the goal at Baylor College Medicine is the programs we have are PhD programs. Let's focus on that first. And actually, before I go on, can you tell me what stage are you at? What year are you in your training, so I can understand how to focus my discussion? Can I just give a shout out? Just put a hands up in your. You can add little symbol to say if you're a senior, put a hand up. There's one. Good. If you're a junior. Sophomore, oh, there's one junior, Leah. And sophomore, yes, awesome. And freshman, the rest, I presume. Okay, cool. All right, so full gamut. All right, so let's get into this. So I am the director of graduate and post-bac development and lead the diversity programs at the graduate school at Baylor College of Medicine. Robert Stevens is a person who reaches out to all schools across the country. And here, shown here, I have Dr. Anthony Rice, who directs our summer research program and our post-bac program for students who are interested in MD, PhD in medical school and health professions. And I lead the post-bac program for students interested in PhD training, okay? And I list here as well, Krista, who is the program administrator for the MSTP program, right? So Baylor, you guys at Baylor University, so you know Baylor College Medicine in the medical center in Houston. It is the largest medical center and now expanding another phase, a $3 billion expansion of Texas Medical Center 3. You can look that up on YouTube, TMC 3. It's got about 7 sky cranes right now. It's going to be full force. Baylor's new cancer center hospital should be open by July, and it's expanding like crazy. So it's a big space. Houston, lots of food, lots of restaurants, really easy to get around. Importantly for us is that it's the most diverse large metropolitan city in the country. So it's very, very diverse and reflective of our programs in the school as well. So we have 4 schools: a medical school, health professions, and graduate school, and then a school, National School of Tropical Medicine. You might have heard, actually, Dr. Peter Hotez and Dr. Maria Bottazzi are both faculty at Baylor University, and Peter is the dean and Maria is the associate dean. They have developed a new COVID-19 vaccine. It's a Baylor vaccine, and so they teach at Baylor University as well in the infectious disease program that is linked between Baylor University and Baylor College of Medicine. In the graduate school, we have 7 graduate programs. Spans a gamut of training, neuroscience to infectious disease to cell biology. We also have an MD, PhD program, summer programs, post-bac programs, and as a graduate student, if you're underrepresented in science and medicine, you could be part of this IMSD that we support by stipend and also various activities as well. We bring in quite a bit of research dollars. So there's a very high level of research activity going on and very well organized structure for teaching and mentoring trainees. Some numbers here, we're in the top in the country of many different programs. And so again, depending on what discipline you are interested in, you would be able to find mentors, faculty to work with in the labs. Again, here about Peter and Peter Hotez in the top right and Maria on the bottom left here. This is quite old right now. The two of them have been nominated for the Nobel Prize because of developing this vaccine. It's amazing. The vaccine, I'm sure that you might have received the vaccine from Pfizer or Moderna, those mRNA vaccines. Those cost between $25 and $35 a shot. Peter and Maria's vaccine is focused on low socioeconomic countries, and the vaccine is only $2 a dose. Okay, so incredible. So that's their goal. It's not, and also the vaccine, the Baylor vaccine, is not patented. So it's also spread around and being ramped up to make the vaccine in countries in Africa and Asia, and #1 places in India. Actually, India is the #1 producer of vaccines in the world, and that's why they targeted India first. There are tremendous resources at Baylor College of Medicine, something called advanced technology cores that are core facilities that assist a summer student that comes in to want to do a research program. On the left panel here is two core facilities. One is for sequencing cores. Another one is cell-based cores using RNAi, siRNA to knock out genes. And a colleague here, Dr. Huda Zogby, was trying to identify something, what is druggable a target that they could treat, alpha-synuclein, which is found in various neurodegenerative diseases. So they started with a primary cell-based screen to say, hey, what's druggable? Screen them with this was in RNAi cell-based screen. And then they found 300 genes. Then they went to flies to say, hey, where do these things, are they expressed? Should we continue studying them? Are they in the brain? Then they identified up to 60 genes, then went into human neurons and culture, and as in mouse validation, knockout, knockover expression, ultimately came up with, hey, potentially there are 6 genes that they might be considered as being targets for treating of neurodegenerative diseases based on alpha-synuclein expression, right? So these core facilities advance the research. Huda's lab, which is a huge lab, Howard Hughes lab, but yet the resources are available at the core facilities. So any student, summer student, graduate student, postdoc, trainees, faculty can use these courses for service and get this project going. On the right-hand side, colleague Jeff Yao, he's interested in how the brain works to receive information from the surrounding, in this sensory modality of sound. And he used one of the cores, Camry. It's an advanced MRI, functional MRI, and using different approaches, diffusion tensor imaging, to see where how the brain is wired to receive sound. Okay, and you would say, why would you want to do that? It's because, hey, if somebody has a traumatic brain injury, a hard impact, they might lose their ability to hear sound and or vocalize that sound subsequently. And so it's very important to understand where in different people the sound perception domains are. Okay, it's quite complicated, but simply showing here as a map on these in the auditory cortex here, that where these representations of these different sounds are. Again, a core facility, right? These advanced MRI are multi-million-dollar equipment. Each lab can't have that, but we have cores for that, right? So advance your research. As I said, you could be a summer student and be working there using those cores. There are many other centers. I'm part of the Huffington Center on Aging. I study actually aging and age-related hearing loss, right? So we have core facilities. I actually have a core for measuring rodent hearing, right? If you ever had a hearing test, you would be played some sounds in this right ear, left ear, and you say, hey, I hear it. Oh, I don't hear it. But rodents can't do that, right? So we put electrodes, surface electrodes on. It is done with humans as well. It's auditory brainstem response. And we can measure specifically where sound is perceived within the brainstem of a rodent or in humans as well, okay? Baylor University is an academic partner of Baylor College of Medicine. We have many other partners as well, U of H, Rice, MD Anderson, but also we have clinical affiliate hospitals. So the medical center has 42 different institutions, of which we are affiliated with many, and the key ones are here. Everyone it's changed the name now. It's Baylor St. Luke's Medical Center. It's called the St. Luke's Hospital. Is our part of our hospital chain. They're bought up by Synergy, which is the largest now hospital chain in the country, and we are the Synergy's research arm. Okay, so we do clinical trials through their hospitals. Again, Texas Children's is the second largest hospital chain, children's hospital in the country and whatnot. So, and MD Anderson. At any one time, we have about 580 students in the graduate school, in the 7 graduate programs. It's about 35% underrepresented in science and medicine, racial, ethnic, disability, socioeconomic, or disadvantaged individuals, including LGBTQ. Domestic, international. Interestingly, of this number, 30% of the 580 something students have received a master's before they decided to go to graduate school. And about 5% have done a post-bac before they decided to go to graduate school. Again, feeling out whether this is rigorous research environment is what you want, okay? And importantly, oops, go back. You graduate in 5.9 years. You will be doing coursework in the first year and a half. If it's 6 years, you're basically 4.5 years that you're doing your research, dissertation research. Everybody publishes. The average impact factor of a publication, publications of a 5-year running average is about 10 impact factor. It's really high. So everybody's going to publish 1 to 10 papers, depending on your luck and how much you collaborate. Okay, so you'll be quite successful. 7 graduate programs: cancer. I'm a co-director of the cancer and cell biology program. Structural biology, development disease models, therapeutics. Again, drug development and animal models. Genetics and genomics. Immunology, micro. There are a lot of faculty who are in immunology, micro, and cancer and cell biology as well, because of CAR T cell treatments of cancers. Neuroscience program, quantitative computational biosciences. We have computer scientists in this program. It's all quantitative. But in addition, every one of these programs have computational informatic approaches of faculty. Okay, so this is the range of programs. They're all interdisciplinary. It's not based in a department. It's based on the research areas of each faculty, okay? So, and I'll highlight this because I don't want to spend too much time on these slides. Every student in every one of those 7 graduate programs may apply for and join this certificate of added qualification for clinical and translational science. So you could then find a mentor, a clinical mentor. And even though you're doing a basic science computational project in the lab, you would, in this program, you would have a clinical mentor and actually go and meet the patients and see the patients that you're studying about and trying to develop drug or whatever, but also have a short clinical project as well on top of your PhD thesis project, right? And that project, that program, you work on it in about over a 15-month period, 18-month period. And there's a capstone presentation and you get this certificate, added qualifications, right? So basically almost like an MD PhD, right? You have a clinical side of it, but you're not directly treating a patient. You get to see the patient and go rounds and go on the various clinical seminar series and stuff like that, right? All programs are flexible. You could join the cancer and cell biology program, but have a mentor who's not part of cancer and cell biology, but actually part of QCV, quantitative program, because you want to do quantitative analyses of cancer, right? Single cell sequencing, for example, and analyze that. You don't want to do wet lab stuff. That's cool, right? And so it's completely flexible. You have to do 3 research rotations. We'd run on terms, 2 terms per semester, okay? You do 3 rotations before you select a lab, and then that's your home lab for your research dissertation research, right? Freeze and choose any lab. Teaching is an option. You are not required. You will be paid $35,500 a year, including insurance. The next slide I'll show you. But then you're not required to teach. You may teach, and once you do well on the course, you can be a TA. Actually, we have a TA course. If you want to be a TA, you have to take the TA course, pass it. It's pretty straightforward, just to give you an idea of how to be a TA. And you pass it, it'll be on your transcript that you actually have some teaching skills. Okay, and when you pass that course, the next year you can be a TA. Everyone works on individual development plans for your career path as where you want to go. And we also have career guidance and career development center. All right, Let's finish up. That's the tuition. Oh, didn't update. Sorry, it's 35,500 per year in the 2022 year. Okay, medical insurance covered. If you receive an outside national award like the National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellowship Program (GFRP), it's a national award. You would get Dean's one-time $3,000 bonus to your stipend. Okay, or National Science Foundation award, F award, something like that, or listed here, right? This is where everyone goes. This was from not the previous year. I haven't updated these slides, but it's basically the same. About 50% go on to postdoc training. This was about, every year we have about 80 to 100 students graduate each year. Medical school does some of the MD PhDs. Pharma, big pharma, little pharma. Research academic, so they went into research teaching and then, but also teaching and research at the same time. Go into business, startup companies, number of companies have started from Baylor, science writing and academics, so you're just going to teaching, right? So that's the average. This is in 2019, 20, this is where all the people went, okay? I highlight this one at the bottom, Taylor Labs in the middle, and that is a company within Baylor that is run by, it's a faculty mentor, but then is run by two graduates of our cancer and cell biology and previous program, IMBS program. They are infectious disease experts, and they develop drugs as phage. So your phage attack viruses, right? Attack bacteria, right? And so they make customized phage to treat untreatable bacterial infections for patients. Okay, it's called Taylor Labs, and it's actually run by two graduate students of the program, of my program, right? But they were in infectious disease, and the faculty mentor. So again, and then another one of my PhD students is actually working for AT&T in big data guy that in Dallas, right? He was a math genius and was working on a biomedical research and built a microscope, optical lasers. So we trap beads and we pull tethers off of a membrane cell and measure the function. But he was just a big data person, a big loved math. So he went and did an internship at a company, then ultimately joined AT&T, right? So again, diverse career options wherever you want to go. All right, I think I'm going to stop there and take any questions. Oh, sorry, last one. Approximately 1,700 applications come in each year. You're asked to rank first or second choice. Either cancer and cell biology, and maybe neuroscience because you want to study brain cancers. 300 candidates I interviewed. This past year, we interviewed 400. Right now, it's been Zoom, unfortunately. Some people have come after to check out school. 200 candidates are offered approximately, and then every year we have about 100, 110 students in the program each year, right? But as I told you, about 80 and 90 graduate each year, right? So it's turnover. Average GPA is 3.6, but it's from 3.0 all the way to 4.0, okay? Quite a range. 20% have masters, as I say, 25% masters. 30% of students come from Texas, okay? And that's what it is. All right, I'll stop here. I can go on, but I want to give you opportunity to ask any questions you would want. Feel free to unmute and ask away. If not, I'll just keep rambling, so please ask questions. Or type it in the chat. I can't see the chat right now. I'll bring up the chat. Feel free to put, where's the chat? I can't see the chat. Oh, here it is.
And if you guys want to put it in the chat or unmute yourself or private message, either me or Dr. Priya, all that is fine. If you guys have questions.
Don't be shy. Any questions?
I had one question, Dr. Priya. Could you talk a little bit about like examples of research projects that some of the students who are in the PhD program but still doing a good bit of clinical research, like what type of research questions they pursue?
It's anything, right? So I'll say, let's say if you're interested in infectious diseases, let's go with that one. You could be developing a new CAR T cell. So these are T cells that could be targeted towards a particular cancer, right? And treating to kill the cancer because it directly targets the cancer, right? So that's, for example, that you might, if it's a clinical related project, a translational project, you might have samples from patients, and you would target them in vitro and see whether it works on those patient samples. And then, yes, indeed, you could develop over time, develop and be part of a clinical trial, right? So yeah, it's all the way from that to whether you're doing pure bench work, but you got samples from patient that you're doing a whole genome single cell sequencing of those tumors, thousands of tumors you'll be sequencing. Very expensive project, but we have cause for that. All right. And we want to identify what drug, what's going wrong with these patient samples. And then can we tailor a particular drug for that patient? So it's called precision medicine. So graduate students are doing that. Postdocs are doing that, right? So it's using patient samples to do the training, right? Seems like we're getting a notice to go back to the main room. Am I supposed to stay here?
I think we stay here till 12:15. Maybe an accident.
Okay, cool, no problem. So I can further comment about what does it take to get into a program, right? This would be applicable to Baylor College of Medicine or any program across the country, okay? So solid academic background, again, GPA 3.0, 4.0, all the range, okay? Importantly, you should have taken some biology, chemistry courses, math if you're really focusing on computation, and have you taken anything to do with computation or informatics, right? Research experience, very important to have some research experience. The average student that joins Baylor College of Medicine now currently has about 15 to 20 FTE, full-time equivalent of months. So they've done at least 2 summer research experiences, and some of them have published as well, right? But it has the gamut. The least would be that you've done at least 1 summer. The most are people that have been working from high school, even doing some science, some research, all the way through college, and even published a paper, all right, as a co-author. So yeah, it's the full gamut, right? But you need to be able to describe carefully what you have done, whatever you've done. That's the most important thing. What we're looking for is, tell us what was the question being asked, what was the problem in the field, what was the hypothesis, what experiments did you do, what did you find, what does it mean, and ultimately, what does it mean in the field or maybe in science in general, right? Pick on all those parts. Don't just say, hey, I went to do a summer research project and I did this project and this is what we found, period. That's just not, you're not committed to the science itself. Tell us a lot more about the scientific method that you used to, and why you even studied that project, right? Understand that PhD, as I said, 5 years, right? 5.9 years. It takes a while, a lot of work. And so understand what that really means and what is your interest. You need to be able to talk about your science, what you're really interested, know something about vaccine, because vaccine's been around so up in the last 2 years, understand that how they might be made even, but more importantly is that you're interested in science. And you tell us in your personal statement and to a certain extent in your research statement, and then be able to talk about what you're interested in. We want to understand, other than and then schoolwork, what have you been doing? How do you relax? Because you can't be intensity all the time in the lab. It has to be, what else do you do? And how do you maintain your focus to be able, when you're in the lab, to be doing the best you can, right? For me, I cycle. Okay, I actually just came back from a ride up in Columbus, and fortunately got back home in time. But again, it's way too windy today. But anyways, what do you do, right? Just how do you relax? You could be going for, you like to run, you like to knit, whatever, right? I'll go on. So we have summer programs. If you haven't had a research experience before, highly encourage you to do summer research, whether at Baylor University, during the year, and or apply for some summer research program that's across the country. The SMART program is a 35-year running program. It's still admitting some students. This year will be about 75 to 80 students during the summer in person, right? If you're graduating, you're a senior, you're graduating and haven't had much research experience yet, or trying to figure out, is rigorous research a PhD for you? Could apply to the post-bac program that I lead, BCM Prep. And again, you would come in and work as a paid technician, 3/4 time technician in a lab of your choice. And then, we filled our spots this year. But this program is something you should consider. There are multiple programs across the country to go post-bac research education program, PrEP, across the country. And learn how, we have a coursework to help you learn how to redo your research statement, redo your personal statements, apply for a fellowship, NSF GRFP, attend a conference like ABRACAMS or SACNAS conferences to have the career development activities, right? And then otherwise, if you join Baylor College of Medicine as a graduate student, you could be part of the IMSD program that I lead as well. Again, we have stipend support and also various student interest groups, and also tutoring, individual tutoring that we get a senior student to tutor you directly. So lots of support to ensure that you will be successful. Other questions? So, and again, this is about the SMART program, the summer program. Again, you need to be able to join the program. Do a summer research program so that it ensures that this is what you want to do. PhD is not easy. It's going to be ups and downs, and you need to learn how to handle that. In fact, we have a National Research Mentoring Network, NRMN training for all incoming graduate students. And we've been doing this with the IMSD group and the PrEP group for a while. I'm a trained facility to train you to understand how to deal with the ups and downs, how to be a graduate student, how to survive, and thrive in this environment. And we have a lot of supportive activities as well, right? Here, this is 2 years ago, 2020. And so that year, again, you should be able to spot a Baylor University shirt somewhere in there. But again, it's a great program, and they're still accepting a few students, but it's this year, I think it's going to be about 75 that will be accepted this coming year. Look that up. This was 2020. It was a virtual thing, but again, they get 9 weeks at Baylor. And there's a program with infectious disease between Baylor University. There's a summer program as well, right, that Peter and Maria organize. So consider that one as well. Weekly seminars, lectures, learning how to present research, putting together a talk, lots of different things like that. And then the PrEP program, this is again from 2 years ago, of the 7 students in my PrEP program. Like I mentioned, is a 1-year program to help you get to the PhD, right? And the 7 slots already filled this year. But again, all these things you would be doing as a graduate student, you would be doing this. But if you're not ready for it, a PrEP program like this will be great. The SMART program as well is great because it will do some of these activities, but you're only there for 9 weeks versus the entire year. And so if you need more experience, 12 months is a tremendous advantage to being in a rigorous research environment. And we do a lot of outreach activities. These are some schools that all our PrEP have gone to. About 50% stay at Baylor. And once you go through a program like that, you realize the rigor of the program and what you need to do to survive, right? And we have a very strong retention rate. After you finish our programs, you go to a PhD program, you will graduate effectively, right? 94% is pretty good. And at Baylor College of Medicine, it's listing here is IMSD, the graduate level program, but it's also available for the prep program as well. And multiple student interest group, Black Science Collective, Hispanic Latinx Women in Science, a SACNAS chapter, LGBT group now called Sexual Gender Minority group called BCM Pride that we started at Baylor at the graduate school. Individuals with disabilities group called Got Spoons. So the concept is that us able-bodied people don't need to use many spoons to go through the day, but individuals with disabilities need more spoons, because they need to put much more effort, whether it's physical or emotional or mental, right? So we recognize that, and we want to ensure that we can support everyone. I mentioned about NRM mentee mentor training. I'm also a trained facility for the mentors, for faculty. We have currently around 350, about 600 faculty trained as mentors, right? So that they understand how to train students and postdocs and everybody. A lot of career professional development activities, again, help you find your career. Our Career Development Center has this PhD career path guide, and every one of these symbols have a Baylor alumni that will come and talk about, there's a biosketch of them there. And then also we schedule panel discussions from all these groups so you understand what it really takes to be, career path, those career paths, if that's what you want. All right, I keep talking here. We do lots of different activities as shown here. This is one of our fun runs that we do every October. So I run with Huffington Center on Aging and whatnot. All right, I'm talking too much. Questions? Feel free to type in the chat, or there we go. Please feel free. Okay, so that's what you put. Questions? Don't be shy.
I got one private message, Dr. Priya, about what type of labs students can join as part of the SMART program.
Every lab. We have no restrictions. Just like the prep or all the other programs, there are no restrictions. Every lab is willing and wanting to train undergrads, postdocs, graduate students, postdocs, residents, fellows, right? Any lab, any research lab. So if you search on our website or any of the graduate program sites, all those faculty that you see there are open to taking a summer student, graduate student, postdoc student. So it's, we, as I said at the beginning, all the labs are well-funded. So they're ready to support, trainees. We're willing to train people so that you have the experience.
Perfect. Any more questions, guys?
You gotta speak up. Don't be shy.
I have one question in the chat. Private message is, do you accept many out-of-state students versus in-state?
Yes, it's, I think there was a picture back there. Here, these are the, from 2020, but it's the same every year. From across the world, in this case, students come from across the world. And this is from that year's, it's the same this year. Most come from Texas and California, the largest populations in the country, but also from Florida across the country. Yes, out of state, no problem. Other thoughts? And that was all my slides. So feel free to reach out to me or Robert. He has the best email. It's gradappboss. Feel free to reach out to him anytime or send an email to smart-program or the prep program, same prep-program. Well, don't worry about the IMSD because that's slightly different. But feel free to reach out to me as well. It's fpereira@bcm.edu.
I have one question in the chat is, I think you touched on this a little bit, but what mentor programs are in place with the PhD and MD PhD programs?
Student mentors or faculty mentors?
I think they mean student mentors.
Student mentors, great. every program has senior students, right? And so as you come in, you'll be matched with different, depending on the program, you would be matched with a senior student to say, hey, I'll show you the ropes, right? Versus with the IMSD, we have what is called a mentoring circles, so that we will meet occasionally and chat, right? We have lunch and learn, so all the first years will meet once every other week initially to talk about, hey, what do you need to know? But those students are coming from each of the 7 graduate programs, but each of the programs have mentor programs, senior mentors as well. So again, it is scary going to graduate school, right? In a rigorous graduate school. And so we want to make sure you have the resources to be able to get done. On top of it, I'm a co-director of the Cancer and Cell Biology program, and I and another faculty, we mentor the first and second year students every year. We split the class in 2. Cancer and Cell Biology accepts about 18 to 20 students each year. And we split down like Dr. Pangus, Stephanie takes half, I take half. And we meet on every term to ensure they're finding a lab, how they're doing in the coursework. And if you need a tutor, we immediately get one. And on top of that, because I and she actually are the directors of the IMSD program, we get notice from the administrators, hey, student's not doing well, or student ask somebody to say, hey, I'm not doing well. Immediately we'll get a tutor for them, right? So there are many senior students that want to be tutors. And so there's always available. There's a list of tutors in each of the graduate programs. So we want to ensure we have the resources, incoming students have the resources to be able to survive and thrive, right? So, and on top of that, once you finish first, second year, you join a lab, you then have a lab mentor and probably another junior mentor in the lab as well, postdoc or of a technician. But on top of that, every graduate program of the co-directors, we are assigned several first year students, and we follow each of you until you graduate. So we're going to be your faculty program manager, mentor until you graduate. Okay. And so again, we ensure that we always have this conversation of helping, right? On top of that, remember I talked about everybody has an individual development plan. So that will be worked with your research mentor. But every time you have a thesis advisory committee that's done every 6 months, the faculty mentor, program mentor is always going to be in that committee, whether I'm an expert in that field or not. I will always be there, and then through until you graduate. But also that we will always discuss your individual development plan at every 6 months. Okay, always trying to ensure that you have a proper career path towards where you're going. Right? If you decide you're not going to do a postdoc, hey, you can finish up earlier. You don't have to get 10 papers published, right? You just need to get a dissertation work done, right? But if you're going to postdoc, maybe you might need those 10 papers because you're eager to get the best postdoc training that you can get, right? So that is the gamut of what it does. We always have multiple levels of support of the student towards graduation. Other questions?
And you guys can unmute yourself or private message me or put it in the chat, whatever works.
Yeah. If you just logged in, please feel free to, step up, ask any question you want. About summer programs, as we mentioned, whether you come to Baylor College of Medicine SMART program or any other, or something at Baylor University, do it because you need the experience to see all the diversity of types of research and, get an experience to see what you're interested in ultimately. It could be coming from a lecture in class, a class lecture, but again, there's such a diversity of research, right? And so even though my research is on aging and age-related hearing loss, I collaborate with colleagues that are studying neurodegenerative diseases. People on the autism spectrum and rodent models on autism spectrum diseases, they have hearing loss, it turns out. Okay. And so again, those things, there's a lot of collaborations are very important and open to discussion as to, hey, this is a question I'm working on. Hey, what do you think? Right? We talk a lot. Every graduate program has a seminar series that the students present once a year, right? And you won't believe, but this is a fact that many collaborations are began at that student research seminar, right? Somebody's presenting their work and somebody in the group says, hey, I can help you do that experiment. We can do it this way or that way. And they have a discussion after, and that's how collaborations start, right? Or directly speaking with the mentors as well. But we have had publications from the Cancer Cell Biology IMBS program of up to 4 graduate students from that seminar series that got together to say, let's work on this project and finish get the publication, right? When you have more ideas and more support and collaborations, you actually get better publications, right? And actually, this is something about diversity, is that the more diverse the names, the surnames and authors, the more higher impact journal an article is published, and it is cited more as well. So we are totally committed to collaborations and with anybody and everybody that's interested to, advance the science. Questions? Summer programs?
I think we had one message about the SMART program is how can applicants stand out in the application process for SMART?
It's the same. I'm going to go back. So ultimately, the SMART programs basically confirming your passion that this is what you might want to do, getting more experience, learning techniques, especially if you're not very experienced yet, build this toolbox and be able to talk about what you did. You'll be joined a team, again, team science, teamwork skills are very important. So being in that environment and seeing how people collaborate, network, they become part of your research network. This is one of the critical parts of career development, building a network, professional development skills and that. So come back here. To be part of the SMART program, be part of the PrEP program, be part of the IMSD program or graduate school, you need to be able to have a solid, reasonably from 3.0 to 4.0 range. You need to have taken some science, math, chemistry, biomedical disciplines, whichever. Research, you need to have at a rigorous research environment such as Baylor College of Medicine. You do need, as much research experiences that you can get. Doesn't mean that even you had one summer or during the school year you've been working in a lab, that's not sufficient, that's not true. It's ultimately how you describe and understand your science. That's what I said. What is the question you guys were asking in that summer program or during the year? What's the problem in the field? What is the problem, the gap in knowledge that you wanted to, the project was to address? What was the hypothesis given what the field it knows? What was the experiments, the approach that you used? What did you find from those experiments? What does it mean in the field? Did you answer the gap or not? And what does it mean for science in general, right? Give that story. That's how you would get into any program, basically, right? The more experiences, the more you'll be able to talk about that science. And then understand what it takes to, in a PhD program in this case, right? And maybe going to do a post-bac, going to a master's program. Baylor, we don't have any master's programs, the Baylor College of Medicine, but do that. 20–30% of students do that, okay? To get more confidence. And then ultimately, why do you have a passion for wanting to go into biomedical sciences? That's the personal statement. Describe what your upbringing is, or if you're underrepresented, describe that. If you have any difficulties, you're working and going to school, that is an important aspect, and that would you would be considered as being underrepresented because it's a socioeconomic issue. And again, be able to write well and also talk about your science. I'm a pretty good writer, but again, sometimes I'm tired, I'm not ready to write. So I use Grammarly. It's grammarly.com. Consider looking that up. There's a free version, but I do have the paid version. It's part of my professional development. So I use grammarly.com, all right? And it's plugged into my computer system. And therefore, whenever I'm writing and I really need to make sure this is well written, well stated, I always double check it, right? If you're writing a research statement or your personal statement, definitely want to check somebody that doesn't know the science that you're working on to be able to review what you wrote. You know, your parents, for example, they're not in science, it's English. You need to be able to communicate, right? And that's why I also use Grammarly. It doesn't matter. It's a grammar checker. It's a spell checker, but it's also just right. It helps you write better, right? Write well. Other thoughts?
I have one interesting question in the chat is how is the environment at BCM in terms of collaboration between different labs?
As I said, this is central to our existence. Collaborations, that's open door policy. You can walk into any lab anytime. I could send an email to my colleague and get reagents, get a mouse the next day, right? So it's central to our core and to our ability to do strong science. It's collaborations is number one on top of everything. So yes, it is. It's not a, I'm doing this, you don't do that. That's really not what we are all about. And as I mentioned earlier, students set up collaborations and faculty say, go for it, right? It's if you can collaborate and get the advanced science faster, great. Another author, doesn't matter. It's just about advancing the science as well, doing the best science and advancing science as well as we can.
Perfect. Any more questions, guys? Oh, there's one question in the chat, Dr. Priya.
Oh, do I see it? Oh, sorry.
I can read it too. It says, feel free to correct me, but as BCM students, we're allowed to take classes in other institutions in the Texas Medical Center like Rice University. Also, students should consider that Houston cost of living is cheaper than other cities in the US, so the BCM stipend and health insurance benefits are great. So I think they're asking about the ability to take other classes at institutions like Rice while enrolled at BCM.
Correct.
A stipend with
yes.
BCM and health insurance.
Yeah, so all their TMC has, Texas Medical Center has a memorandum of understanding. These are legal things that says that any student and each institution at Baylor College of Medicine can take courses at Rice University, University of Houston, UTMB, MD Anderson, as long as the course is something towards their degree program. Okay, so it's free to take the courses there, right? And that allowed to take extra classes, yes, that's number one. Like Rice, yes, for sure, should consider that the Houston cost of living is cheaper than across the US and East West Coast especially. And stipend is, yes, indeed, the stipend is pretty good. It's coming income, 2022 academic years, 35.5. So it really goes a long way in Houston, right? And actually right now, my 7 preps are starting to move to Houston and planning to move to Houston. And so we have a good support for current students saying, hey, these are the places that we live in. There's a document that's shared amongst everybody, and that it's available so that you can go ahead and learn from, maybe somebody's moving out, emails go all over the place, and therefore allows you to know what's available. And we have a real estate agent that will help you find a place, and they don't charge. It's just part of the support of the students. Daniel, you want to say something?
Yes, I just had a quick question about the so normally as undergrads we have semesters, right? But at BCM we're gonna have terms.
Yep.
Like I think you split the years in 5 terms. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's why I said 2 terms per semester, and we ultimately have 5 terms. All right. We're finishing up term 4 currently. It's a 10-week course, 8 weeks of classes, 1 week of exam, 1 week of break. Okay, for each of the terms. Okay, and therefore, classes usually 1 hour to 1 hour and a half in general. Okay, some labs might take a little longer. So if it's 8 weeks of classes, after about 2 to 3 weeks, you might have a midterm, depending on the course. And then 2 to 3 weeks more, and then you'll have a final, right? So it does go a little fast. Most of the courses are recorded so that you can review, right? Especially the core courses, they're all recorded. And that we have study groups. Every single course at 5 o'clock, either the TA is going to be doing a review of what was taught, but most often there are study groups, and then there are some tutoring as well. So yes, it's shorter. So quite a bit of stuff is given during that 10 weeks. So yes, you have to be on top. If you feel you're behind, you're very behind, right? That's why during orientation, we talk about this constantly, that hey, you should start to be in a study group to start with. And then if you still feel you are behind, you need to get a tutor, right? Be in those study groups, but on top of maybe have a tutor as well, right? So that's the way the courses work. And standardly across the country, you need 30 didactic credits to be completed your coursework, okay? There are also electives as well, some of which are not didactic, okay, that are required courses that you will also take. But in general, you won't, it's not like undergrad that you take eight classes a day. It's not that way, right? It's spread out over the week and over the year and a half, right? So you would join, take your coursework first year. Second year, learn how to write a grant. So there's something called a qualifying exam that you must pass before you can be officially admitted to the candidacy for the PhD. Okay, and that comes up in the second half of the second year. Okay, and every program has a course, sometimes didactic, sometimes non-didactic, to teach you how to write a grant. What is a grant? Right? It's not a project that you would do over a summer. It's actually a grant that you could submit ultimately to the NIH or to NSF or Howard Hughes for funding. It's quite a bit of rigor in that. And there's the scientific speak of what you need to write. And a project is not a grant. And so this is a major distinction that we teach you about what that really means and what is a specific aim. How do you, like I said, about what's the question, what's the gap in knowledge, what's the hypothesis, what's the approaches that you're going to use, how rigorous, there's something called rigor and reproducibility. We teach you all about what that really means, how many ways you have to do the experiment to ensure that you received the correct answer that you could get. And it may mean that you've disproved your hypothesis, but that's okay, right? But did you have the rigor and the reproducibility? Did you describe your experiment that anyone in the world could repeat it, right? If somebody can't repeat it and you publish that work, that's garbage, effectively. It's a one-time off. Therefore, it's not a real, becomes not true if nobody can repeat it. Okay, so there has to be a rigor and reproducibility of your work. Other thoughts?
Yes, now that we're touching about the qualifying exam, what are, I mean, I know you can pass it or revision, right, or fail it. Like,
Yeah.
what's the stats on that? Like, normally how students perform in that step?
Sure. There are three options, three outcomes. You pass, you incomplete, or fail. In general, over a 10-year period, there's maybe 1, 2 that actually failed. But then even if you failed, you could retake it most of the time, okay? And incomplete happens about 50% of the time-ish, all right? It just simply means, hey, you did really well. You could answer questions. You could think through the problems of the questions, and that ultimately you were able to answer. Or that you really needed a lot of prompting to answer. Or that you really didn't do a good job of describing in the grant, right, the proposal that you write for the qualifying exam. You didn't really do a good job of giving us a good background and knowledge and insight into the field. Therefore, you would write a 3-page, 5-page review of that area, right? That's usually 50 to 60% of the time, right? And as I said, very seldom would be a fail, but then the rest pass. Therefore, you did a really good job writing a grant proposal. You really knew the ins and outs of it. You were able to think on your feet to answer the questions. We might lead you down a wrong path purposely, and you need to be able to think through that problem and think, and realize, hey, it's the wrong path because this is the question I'm actually asking. Maybe, this is what that would be, and this is how I would answer that question. But my question is really this. That's an insight that you need to figure out, right? Challenging your thought processes, right? So there's 3 outcomes, right? Approximately 40 to 50% pass, then 50 or 60% incomplete, and very seldom would be a fail. Other thoughts, questions?
I think we're unfortunately out of time, but thank you so much, Dr. Puria, and thank you guys for your questions. If you're a non-Baylor student, you can head to either the social hour or take a screen break and then come on for the keynote at 1. And if you're in Baylor, make your way to D110 for the keynote. But
Awesome.
yes,
Good
thank you, Dr. Puria. We appreciate it.
You're welcome, and good to see you, Daniel. Take care.